Hi, I'm Callie from CRK Training, and we have something really exciting for you today because I came up to Carlisle, Pennsylvania to interview someone that I really admire and respect after I saw her work on one of my students' horses. And I'm here with Terry Peiper from Right Fit Saddle Solutions, and she is a saddle fitter. So what we're going to do today is just talk to you a little bit about why you need to be looking at the way that your saddle fits your horse, and Terry's going to help us with that. So I guess let's just start with, why is saddle fit so important for our horses?
Well, the biggest reason that I have seen is because the saddle fit severely affects the horse's behavior and their performance. So many horses are labeled bad horses because of their behavior, and they get passed off to auctions and passed around to different homes. And a lot of times we see it's the equipment that's causing the behavior, and their behavior is the way they try to communicate to us. So I'm kind of like the in-between person, the person that communicates to the rider what the horse is trying to say.
Okay, yeah, I've certainly seen that, just with some of the work that you did on Evo, which was a horse that my student had. We saw some behavior change with her. So I guess leading into that, what are some of the most common behavior or soundness issues that you see that people maybe don't think about, but they're actually being caused by the saddle fit?
I think the number one thing that we see, it gets so much attention, is the area at the shoulders. People are always talking about the quarter horse bars, semi-quarter horse bars in the Western saddles, or in the English saddles, medium tree, wide tree, and that's because it's such a big deal having that freedom of the shoulder. And so it does get a lot of attention, and I think that's probably the most common problem we see. And what happens is, when the horse's stride is restricted because of the flow of the shoulder, it causes problems with their feet. People don't realize that a lot of times our lameness issues are being caused by the saddle up above on the shoulder. It's also causing problems with their back. Obviously the saddle sits on the back, so we know it's causing problems with their back, but how it's causing problems is because it's pinching, and the horses invert their backs instinctively, not knowing what they're doing. Instinctively they do that. And that in the saddle the back being inverted because of the saddle causes it just a chain reaction. It goes through the back all the way into the hips. We have problems with the SI joint, hocks, stifles, and it all goes back up to the saddle. So I think the biggest one I would say is the shoulder, and I know in my lectures I spend a lot of time talking about the shoulder. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we're going to put some resources for you where you can look a little bit further and do some more reading on, some of the main points of saddle fit. But one of the other questions I wanted to ask you today is, as a saddle fitter, what are the main benefits? Like what do you do for people that, when we go out and just kind of look at our saddle and how it sits on the horse, maybe things that we can't see or that we're missing, that as a saddle fitter you can help with?
Well, like I said before, I'm kind of like the in-between person. You can take a look at a saddle, and I can see when the horse is what we call the static fit. I can see when the horse is standing still how that saddle is probably fitting and how he's probably affecting the horse when he moves. But we put the saddle on and have you ride in it just to be sure, just to confirm. So one of the things that we see a lot is, soon as the horse will be standing for measurements, and they're very sweet and they're very lovable and everything's great, and then as soon as you pick up the saddle and you go towards them, their ears are pinning, their tail's swishing, they won't stand still, and it's like, wait a minute, a second ago you were being really good. So it's obvious to me, but a lot of times in the busyness of our day, it's like, well, just stand still, and I had one rider tell me, wonderful horse, terrible ground manners, horrible ground manners. And he was late for his appointment, and one of the camp kids was there. So can you get, I can't think of his name, anyway, it was a big gelding, huge gelding, little girl. I said, can you get him out? She's like, oh yeah. She's, I ride him in camp. I said, okay. So I didn't know that he had poor ground manners. I'm just thinking, it's a camp situation. There's kids everywhere. Brings him out, stands him up, stands him square. Now probably take 20, 25 minutes to go through the confirmation and all the measurements. Horse is standing beautiful for this little girl. Now when I get the saddle out, now he's stomping his feet, he's moving around, he's pinning his ears, he's swishing his tail. But see, the owner just labeled him as poor ground manners. It's like, well, he doesn't have poor ground manners. He was great until we got the saddle out.
Yeah.
So another thing you want to take a look at is when the horse is lunging. We just like to lunge them just to see, because a lot of times I've never seen these horses. How does he travel on his own? Is he off on the left front? Does he have trouble bending to the right? Does he always pick up his correct lead, or does he never pick up the right lead? And then compare it to with the saddle. You can lunge the horse with the saddle and see a difference, and then put the rider on the saddle and see another difference. And people sometimes just don't take the time to do it. And I have a system, you know, a form that we have to follow from 1 to 29, and then it makes it really obvious.
Yeah.
When I'm finished, you'll know all the answers, and your horse is the one that tells you. And I love that about my job, because the horses don't lie, they tell you.
Yeah.
I just have a system to show you and let him tell you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because even in my own, you know, years of working with horses and riding, you know, people, they look at saddle fit, but they never really look at it as a possible something that's causing a lot of the problems we see, like horses picking up the wrong lead, or like, you know, you mentioned about the ground manners. I think that's huge, because there's so many horses that are just labeled as, oh, he's girthy or he's cranky, when, you know, maybe it's just a pain issue, he's uncomfortable. So I think that's really great. I guess I'd like to finish with, you know, you kind of told us that little story about the horse with the difference in his ground manners. Is there any other, you know, maybe like horses in your own barn, or horses that you've treated, like a case that stands out that, you know, you kind of had a big transformation in the horse getting a correct saddle fit?
Besides my own horse? My own horse was really big. There's a lady over near New Jersey that had a horse that was almost 20 years old. She's a mare. And when I set up my tables to do my measurements, and she brought her out, she put her on the cross ties, and she was swinging back and forth, like almost to the point where I was like, okay, move back, you know, move everything out of the way. Then she started to swish her tail, and she was urinating, and just, you know, like a mare in heat kind of thing. I mean, she was really, really upset and cranky. And she'd been with the vet, she had been with the chiropractor, she had done acupuncture, she had her own Regumate. I mean, she was just, I don't want to use the word evil, but she was an extremely unhappy mare. Just bringing her out, putting her on the cross ties, just that. I didn't even get near her.
Yeah.
When she got on her, it was every instructor's nightmare. She got on at the mounting block, and you know, she didn't stand still. She starts to go, there's no walk. She just trots a few steps and canters. Now, fortunately, the rider has had this horse for many years. She has no fear. She's a really good rider, and she would do a one rein stop, bring her around, get her right back under control, send her forward again, hoping for a walk. She'd trot a little bit, head up in the air, and then she'd start cantering, and she'd stop her, and she'd go, and then she'd stop her, and she'd go. And I let her go around once, and I was like, okay, I've got it. All right, let's not do any more. She is really, really unhappy. We changed the saddles. Actually, we put that saddle right there on her. We put that saddle on her. She got on the mounting block. She started to run off right away. One rein stop, came around, and then, look, I'm getting chills. She got her stopped the first time, and then she started to walk. She started to trot, and then she dropped her head, and she let out a big sigh. So she let her trot. Yeah. And she trotted, big long arena. She trotted all the way down across the short side and was coming up the wall. She started bawling. I started bawling. I'm gonna tear up now. And then she exhaled because she was just crying. Yeah. She exhaled, and the mare walked on a loose rein.
Wow.
And I mean, it was just that big of a deal. Now, the best part of that story is 3 months later, when we went back for our first evaluation, where we adjust the saddle again, because there's big changes. When a horse has been restricted for a while, they hold themselves in a position that's not very comfortable, and muscles don't grow and interact the way they're supposed to. So that first fitting, 3 months later, I pull in the driveway, make a wrong turn, end up at the neighbor's. Well, they have horses, so I thought, well, you know, hi. You know, I go through that, and here she comes, riding the mare. What are you doing over here? So, oh, I stopped to see her neighbors. Well, anyway, now she's trotting on the grass field while I'm driving over to her house on a loose rein, long neck, and the mare is just as happy as can be. The lady's got a big old grin on her face. So she went from being evil, out of control, and just don't even get near me, to hacking out across the field alongside a pickup truck, alongside the road. In 3 months, I was just, that's why I do what I do. Because she had been to the vet, been to the acupuncture, been to the chiropractor, was trying medications, and it was all in that saddle, all along. And it was one of those deals where she had the saddle for a long time. She had the horse for a long time, but with the age of the mare, I think she was 19, with the age of the mare, now things were changing, and where the saddle used to fit was now causing her a lot of discomfort. So that's just one of them. I have lots of them. I need to start writing a book, because it really does make a big difference, and that's what keeps me going.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a really cool story, and I can see even, you know, your emotion and the passion that you have for the horses.
It was big. It was big.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, and I thank you so much for doing this interview with me today. And if any of you, watching this, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments, or, share your own little stories. And I just hope that, this video kind of gets you thinking some of maybe the issues that you're dealing with your horse. Instead of just looking at behavior and training, make sure that your horse is comfortable first, and saddle fitting is a huge part of that. So thank you again, Terry.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoyed the video. Right? Perfect.
Great, thanks. It's fit right.
Oh.
That's okay.
What should
Nobody
I say?
will
Right fit?
Yeah, that's fine. Just so you know next time.
All right, thank you.
That's so funny. Got the Peiper. That's like something I would do.